My name is David Hughes. I'm with GRAYBOX. I'm Director of Strategy here. I'm also the lead of the Magento e-commerce marketing practice here. So we do more things than e-commerce. We also, like I said, do marketing, web applications. We've been in this space for about a year. We rent this space out. It's for free, actually, so you just need to reserve it. So if you're looking for an event space, this space is available. We also have a conference room that's available for reservation. So if you're having, other meetup groups or need to have like a corporate function, please let us know. Yeah, any questions about us or the space or anything else? Cool.
Thanks. So I'm Chris Bailey. I'm the business development manager over at Forks. We're a digital agency here in Portland, focusing entirely on e-commerce. We're a top 10 Magento partner, and we basically help customers increase revenue through giving them a new user experiences based on user activity from their existing sites. So everything that we do is very data-driven. And I'm introducing Jeff Bronson today. I've worked with Jeff as a former colleague and continue to work with Jeff as one of Forks' trusted e-commerce advisors for site optimization strategies. Jeff's got over 13 years e-commerce experience in a digital agency role capacity, but most importantly, as a shop owner himself. And so he's also the owner of E-Commerce Warriors. E-Commerce Warriors is an e-commerce consulting firm that helps outdoor brands increase their revenue and find hidden revenue on their site. So through the strategies that you're going to go through today. So
Awesome.
Please give it up for Jeff.
Cool. So again, thanks for having me, Chris, Wendy, David. Thanks for the introductions. So we find ourselves at a time now we're changing from summer to fall, and holidays is starting to spark in our minds. So kind of my goal of this presentation here is that you find a few actionable strategies that you can use if you find yourself in a position of already owning a store that you're able to take away and implement before the holidays come around. So with that said, let me just jump right into it. So reclaiming revenue, 4 uncommon strategies to grow your online store. So to kind of set the stage for this, I wanted to start off with a statistic here. Despite 23% growth each year in the e-commerce industry, over 90% of retailers fail after their 5th year. And this is a statistic that I'm taking that was put together by Harvard Business School, and it was compiled into an infographic by Mashable. And, personal theory here is a lot of the failure comes from A, lack of a unique selling proposition, and then B, a low barrier to entry, and that may not apply to some of the people in this room. Some of the smaller e-commerce shops that are out there, it's, as you all know, it's never been easier to start a store today and be up and running in 30 days, and while that's technically true, it's not so easy to keep everything running, year after year and grow it and grow it profitably. So with that said, everyone usually focuses on top of the funnel kind of traffic, like how do I get more visitors to my store? Now, I'm going to touch on a couple of those very quickly, but what we're going to focus on is reclaiming revenue from the shoppers that you already have. And the reason that that's important, that everyone knows, is it's cheaper to keep and sell to your existing shoppers than it is to find new shoppers. So, with that said, very briefly, new customer acquisition is something that we can all relate to. It's what many retailers focus on almost exclusively. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of these before, like AdWords. It's expensive, it's confusing. Hey, Google ate my budget too fast. What do I do now? It's lobbying. The commitment's large, the ROI is unclear. It's like, hey, I tried it, didn't work, what should I do next? Well, maybe I hired an agency that overpromised and they underdelivered. I got burned. So people are frustrated with what to do next. People will try social media for a few months, not really sure how to approach it, and then they don't see that it's a valuable investment. So the point here is all of these strategies are absolutely valid, and there's absolutely ways to get each of these very well-trained customers in. But we're going to focus on what to do once you already have people at the site and how to get more money out of them, so to speak. So I'm going to show you an example here, and again, this is an extremely overly simplistic, rudimentary example, but we're going to take a scenario where we have a first-time shopper that you've spent, acquisition costs. Let's say you spent $40, whether it's through one channel or a couple different channels to bring them in. Well, all things being equal, by the time you consider your cost of goods and your overhead and your acquisition costs, maybe you're left with a fairly slim margin on that first order. But the idea here is that if you figure out ways which we're going to go through to get more revenue from your existing shoppers on that second order, you see quite a difference in the profit if you have a virtually next to nothing acquisition cost through some of the strategies that we're going to look at. And that, of course, exponentially increases on the third order and the fourth order and the fifth order. So one of the first ways that you approach this to get more revenue from your existing shoppers is to define it. Meaning to define who your most valuable shoppers are, what they want, and how do you meet their needs with your existing clients and your product set and what you have going on. So this is going to bring us to our first strategy of the evening out of 4, which is creating an analytics measurement framework, which is your roadmap, which is your plan to figure out how to sell more to your existing shoppers. So a measurement framework, it helps you bridge the gap. Meaning it helps you bridge the gap between where should I look at analytics and what should I focus on next to grow my online store, because anyone here that's looked at analytics knows it can be overwhelming and they're coming out with new features all the time. And a lot of times people look at top line aggregated numbers and they're just not really sure what to do next. So this is a way that we're going to go through to tie your objectives and your goals for your company into actionable next steps. Now, creating segments is one of the ways that you do that. It's going to make things a heck of a lot easier, because what a segment is a group of people with similar characteristics. Just like you can take us in this room tonight, we're all here for a reason. That we're in a digital space, we own stores, or we have some kind of an interest in e-commerce. So when you own a store and you can define segments, it's going to make knowing what to do next when sales aren't going as well as you'd like a lot easier. So let me show you an example of what I mean by that. Segments equals action. All right, guys, if you want to get back to it, sorry about that. Some technical challenges. I think we're good now. So, just as a refresher, we're going through some strategies to win more business from your existing shoppers, and the first step of which was creating an analytics measurement framework. And we're going through what exactly that meant. So, creating a framework is going to make your life easier, so you don't get overwhelmed with Google Analytics data. So, the way to do that is there are several ways you can categorize your segments of shoppers. 4 of them are acquisition, demographics, behavior, and outcomes. For example, acquisition, where do my shoppers come from? Demographics can be segmented by gender, by age, by location. Behavior, did my shopper use internal site search or didn't they? Which is something we're going to be touching on in a few minutes. Or outcomes, did they purchase or did they take a particular micro-conversion action that we wanted?
So what do you mean by paid versus owned in the acquisition side on channel?
For example, if you're paying to bring the traffic in through a paid channel like Bing Ads or Analytics versus something that owned media like on your site or something like that. So to look at an example of what that would mean in practice, just again a rudimentary example. Numbers are always going to vary depending upon what size retailer you are. But if we look at the top line here, let's say we set the objective of increasing sales. Well, we can tie that objective to a goal, which is increase customer spend per order. We can increase that goal to, we can attach that goal to a KPI, a key performance indicator for average order value. From there, this is where it gets interesting. You can say, okay, let's say that my average value is $70 per order, and I'd like to increase that incrementally to $95. How do I get there? So one of the ways that you can do that, back to the previous slide, is creating a segment. And one of those particular segments can be behavioral based, meaning did someone use site search or didn't they? Because if we start to measure things within the context of a segment, we know where to focus on next. Instead of, hey, sales are down, what do we do? So the idea is to create several segments based upon your particular business and what's important to you to know what next actions to take. Now, to look at a real-world example of this, we'll talk about opinions and assumptions. So a previous client I worked with, this particular client, they were selling about $50 million a year, but their online component was under $5 million. And they wanted to, I had come in at the beginning of the project, put it in context, because they were thinking about making some changes to the site and potentially doing a new site build. And one of the things that they wanted to do was to refocus their efforts and their target audience on a younger crowd. And they didn't have a good reason why, other than we think we should. So, so we looked at the data, so we created segments. When you're talking about those kind of numbers, you want to be sure about what you're doing. And in this particular case, we had a younger segment, like we call it millennials for that sake, say 18, 35, 44s who are crossing that boundary. Myself, kind of in this range, straddling both sides of this, and then we had our older segments. And one of the first observations that I came about was we can see that on the older segment that the pages per session and the average session duration were higher. Now, some people could consider that a good thing. Hey, great, they spent more time on site. And other people could make the argument that, well, maybe this crowd is older, maybe they're not as used to tech, maybe they're having more of a challenge. But the outcome of that we found was that conversion rates, the average rate is 2%. We have people here that are straddling, from 5% as high as 14%. So to put that in context with an aggregate number here, is that the older demographic had a purchase conversion rate that was over 2.5 times higher. So in this particular case, this company avoided a very expensive mistake. Because if they hadn't seen this information, they could have focused a lot of their marketing dollars towards building a site that was tailored towards a younger crowd. And I mean, imagine if design development and marketing changes were very underway. Not only could that have had devastating effects on the store revenue, but also on people's jobs.
So $64 question is, how did you determine the customer's age?
Within Google Analytics, some of the shoppers, based on the cookie that's shopped in the machine, will be able to tell, based on a lot of different factors, what age group they're in. It doesn't catch everyone, but it catches a good portion of them. So we use the existing information.
This is then Google's algorithmic determination of age versus maybe actual age.
It was.
I mean, customers aren't going to generally give up their age or.
Right, and you're absolutely right. You can put it, and this is something I think would be good for.
Yeah.
At the end of this, I think we can go through more questions. But to answer your question, there's a whole variety of factors, from everything from double-click cookies that are in machine to Google to partnerships they have with other advertisers, logins that you have.
Yeah.
It takes all these different things together and it aggregates it, and it comes up with the best estimate of what the ages are.
Yahoo emails. When you send it for Yahoo, you have to put your age in. Way back when.
So
that's part of it too.
Within the context of this, it was an expensive mistake that was avoided. But I mean, everyone does it. Let's take the Honda Element, for example, which personally I'm happy about. They're coming out with a new model in 2018 after a hiatus of several years. But originally their target demographic was 22-year-old males with an interest in outdoor sports, surfing, mountain biking, and things like that. But they were trying to capture people that were college age that were moving away from civics into something else. But what they didn't take into account was that the older demographic were drawn to the utility of the vehicle, and they also had the resources and the money to purchase it. So the point is, it's not just small retailers that do this. Even companies as large as Honda can make some of those same kind of mistakes. So this is something that's very good at the very beginning of a project, or even a year or two into it. If things aren't going your way, you try and dig a lot deeper into the ages and the demographics and all these kind of things to kind of set the frame for the tone of your copywriting and your photography and your marketing efforts and things like that. So one of the things that we had touched on when we looked at our measurement framework was using behavioral segments. And one of those behavioral segments we talked about was site search. And this is a really big one here, because maximizing internal site search is something that everyone can go home right now and decide to do without taking any money out of their pocket or doing anything else. You can literally log into your shopping cart or in analytics to figure some of these things out. So what we usually see most of the time is that people who did perform a site search convert better, meaning they have a higher purchase conversion rate. So when you see something like that, you have to ask yourself, okay, who are the people that perform site search, and how can we get more of those people to use site search so that we can all make more money? So I want to look at a few actionable things that you can do right away within site search. And given the constraints of time that we have, there's a long list. At the end of this, I'll make a link available that goes over all these things, as well as all the different points that you can do in your store in more detail, given the time that we have. But I'm going to go over a couple of these real quick. Now, first one here, if we take our shopping cart, whether it's Magento, Shopify, whatever it may be, a great tip is to look at your shopping cart and look for your internal site search reports, and look for ones that were searched for at least a handful of times, but that yielded 0 results. Meaning someone came to your store, they typed in the search box, they wanted to find something, and they were met with a goose egg. Just said, oh, sorry, no results found. And some of the better retailers will at least say, sorry, no results found, but you may be interested in X, Y, and Z. So when you see something like that, if there's no results found, one of the first things that you can ask yourself is, were there any technical issues preventing my search from coming up? Or if you're say if you're using something like a solution like Foretel, you would look at, maybe my metadata is incorrect, and that's why my product wasn't showing up. Or maybe if something's searched quite a bit, you can say this is a new product opportunity that I haven't thought of before. Or you can look to jump to the bottom here and figure out that maybe these are some misspellings and synonyms or new jargon about this particular product that I didn't know about. So you can literally take the language that your shopper is using and take that same language and then put it back into your product pages and all your marketing efforts and things like that. So jumping away from the shopping cart, if you're going to move into whatever you're using, whether it's metrics or Google Analytics, you can look at things like which pages your shoppers started searches from, because not everyone's going to know. Some people could be searching for let's use an SEO phrase here, long tail keywords, maybe they come in on the product page. Or maybe they hit a category page. And if you find someone searching from a category page, a great question to ask yourself is why? What did they search? Was my navigation bad? Am I only showing 10 products per page instead of 20? Am I using lazy load or infinite scroll or things like that? So you start to question, why is a person looking for this particular query on my category page, and how can I improve that? So another tip here within Google Analytics that you can consider is refine keywords. Meaning that, again, someone searched in your store, they didn't find what they're looking for, so they had to search a second time. So that can, again, give you some very good information about industry terms or jargon that maybe you're not currently using. Another kind of power play here is that, let's say you have a product page that converts very well. If someone searches for that particular product or branded keyword search, instead of sending them to a grid of products that they then have to hunt and peck and find what they're looking for, it's converting very well, you can consider mapping that keyword to a particular product page. That way you're getting people faster and you're reducing the number of clicks that it takes to get them on an actual product page, so hopefully they add the cart and continue down the purchase journey. Getting people to use search, of course, is an important one. None of this really matters unless you can get people to use search. And some of the ways that you can do that is just A/B split testing, everything from layouts, button colors, predictive text, things like that. Because it's funny, with as large of an impact as search has on purchases, it usually takes a very small amount of screen real estate. Maybe you have a little search box in the top right, or maybe something in the center. So the whole trick is to get more people to use it, and once you do, is to start looking at some of these different tips to make the most out of the people that you've already paid to acquire without losing them for something that's easily preventable. Another interesting one to consider before we move on is making all of your content searchable. So, for example, lifestyle brands or outdoor retailers tend to have a lot of accessories and a lot of educational and entertaining content possibilities. So you can figure out ways to make everything searchable so that you can have, for example, at the top of your screen, products that you can filter by different attributes. And then you can have a section with content, which could be like blog content and things like that. Then another section for FAQs. So it's just one more way to get people deeper into the site. So I want to move on here briefly. Better merchandising. A big obstacle I see towards not selling enough is too many clicks to purchase. It's a really common challenge that limits growth. A recent client I was working with was concerned with shrinking revenue and shopping cart abandonment. So one of the steps that we took was using a tool, could be like Mouseflow, Hotjar, things like that, to see what behavior shoppers were taking when they're on the site. So in this case, we looked at heat maps and visitor recordings, and something really interesting came about. When we watched recordings and saw the path that shoppers were taking, in one particular session, a shopper added a product to their cart, and then immediately here, this was a missed opportunity, is that you would think getting someone closer to the cart is a good thing because you're pushing them to check out, but you're not giving the shopper the choice. So right off the bat, someone was redirected to the cart, and what they did from there is they didn't proceed to checkout, they clicked back to the home page. So you think you're getting them closer, but then they went all the way back, and what did they do from there is they found an accessory for their product. And then they repeated the cycle. They kept adding items to the cart, going back to the home page, and they ultimately abandoned the cart. So look at a couple ideas that we could have done to reduce the number of clicks that it took for them to actually purchase things. So this was a huge missed opportunity here for someone to add 2, 3, 4 items and then disappear. So imagine this. Imagine if a different path to purchase happened. Let's say, for example, that you research your popular product and accessory combinations. And that could be your top couple dozen SKUs that sell very well. It could be the top 20% of your products that generate 80% of your revenue, and so forth. From there, you create a new product page, or even improve the existing page that you have with bundled options. Meaning, let's say you're looking at an item, and it's like, okay, you can purchase this item, or you can purchase this item plus accessory A and B. And you give someone several different options, because what most retailers seem to do is they'll have their main product here at the top, and then at the bottom it's like, hey, these are other recommended products that you may like. So the trick here is to find what's selling well, what everyone wants, and bundle them together so that way the shoppers can get what they want with fewer clicks, and feel like you're getting a deal, and then your store can see higher average order values. And we'll look at a couple of examples of that. And it's a win-win situation. Like, I was recently in the market for a camp stove. And I purchased a transient alcohol burner, which I really like, and I knew that there were certain accessories that I wanted to buy. For example, I wanted to get a strainer cover and a pouch to keep everything in. And based on probably my search history plus other shoppers that were on the site, Amazon was smart enough to show me a few of the very common accessories and have all of these things pre-checked and allow me to add them to the cart with one click. Which is a brilliant thing that's not necessarily technically unfeasible for most retailers, no matter what platform that you're using to create configurable products. Because what most retailers do, let's say you're in the market for, you're going to drop $1,000 on a living room sofa. If you've agonized over this decision and you finally decided, hey, I want a sofa, please don't show me any more at the bottom. Show me pillows, show me throws, show me ottomans and things like that, and give me the choice. Maybe I can just purchase all those things with one click and go about my day. Then you have at the other extreme, you have your places like maybe your Vistaprints or your GoDaddies that upsell you to death to the point that you just want to go somewhere else and they won't leave you alone. So kind of finding a happy medium like Amazon did is taking all the past purchase history and creating something that's very easy. And going that extra mile can make your marketing dollars work a lot harder, because instead of someone getting frustrated and leaving, or that past purchase that we looked at, having to click multiple times to get to each of these products, just allow people to purchase it quick, a lot faster with one click. So again, good stuff. I could say that the purchase is definitely working out well. So, moving on here, just give you, again, a small numbers example that's going to vary depending upon your size, but smarter merchandising absolutely pays. Let's pretend that you're getting 600 orders a month and you have an average order value of $140. Now, let's say that, out of the 10 people that purchase that, you can get 2 of them, 20%, to spend more. Let's say you get them to spend $25 more per order by bundling items together. In this small example, that would be a few $1,000s additional revenue over a month just by creating popular accessory combinations. And it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but if you consider that over the course of a year, that could be $35,000, $40,000. That could be enough money to bring in another employee so that you can free things off of your plate to focus more on business development related tasks. So, and it doesn't end there. We're going to go onward and we're going to discuss a little bit about lifecycle email marketing, and then of course at the end we're going to open up for any Q&As or things like that. So, lifecycle email marketing, a term I'm sure that many of you have heard of. Continuing to reward and engage your shoppers is one of the smartest things that you can do, and email is a natural way to accomplish this. So think of it this way: someone just purchased, and that's the perfect time for another sale. I mean, people gave you the ultimate trust that they could ever give you, was opening up their wallet and taking out their credit card and giving you their credit card number and purchasing something. So when someone does that, everyone here can relate to this. At the simplest level, you're expecting to get 2 emails right after that. You're expecting to see an order confirmation email, and you're expecting to see a shipping confirmation email. There's some very small tweaks, again, that you can do here within the next week to get yourself ready for the holiday season. Thank you. Thank you is the first thing that you'll see when you get these emails. And one of the things that you can do here is, let's take the example of the alcohol burner stove that I just purchased. If I was with a retailer, let's say other than Amazon, I was a small outdoor retailer, if I just purchased a stove, I'd be absolutely thrilled if that retailer sent me an email that said, hey, by the way, these are 10 ways to get more out of your alcohol stove. Here's a way to ensure that everything is safe. Here's why it's a better bet than using canister-based fuel or something like that. So it's a way to go beyond the sale and start creating an even deeper relationship that you're actually teaching me something about the gear that I have. Another opportunity here, which is pretty much a no-brainer, is to just add a link to gift cards, especially around the holiday time. You like so much to buy from us. Why not share this with your friends or loved ones? Here's a link to purchase a gift card. Go directly to a gift card page where you can choose a denomination. So these are all ways, of course, to try and deepen a relationship or to get more revenue out of your existing shoppers that just purchased. Or very importantly, and we don't have enough time to go into all the nuances of this, but it's just respecting your shoppers and asking their opinion. I mean, everyone likes to be respected. Everyone likes to be asked their opinion of what you think. So in a case like that, don't be afraid to send your shoppers a survey and ask them, why did you buy from us, or, compared to a competitor? Or why did you almost not purchase from us? And just take some of those words that you use over a long enough time frame, you're going to start to recognize a lot of the same wording that, again, you can start to use to update your, the wording that you're using in marketing and your products and stuff like that. So before we go on to a couple different strategies, before we wrap up for lifecycle emails, touchy subject here is that 3 out of 10 shoppers that add items to their cart are going to go, meaning that only 3 out of 10 shoppers who add items will complete their purchase. The average abandonment rate is about 69%. So we could talk all day for the reasons about why that happens and reasons why if you just started educating your shoppers from the very beginning with all the FAQs, they'd be more likely to purchase. But today what we're going to touch on here is that it's not always a complete loss. So let's say someone abandons their cart. About 12% of the people that abandon can be recovered using an email follow-up sequence. And there's a million and one ways to do it. This is just one way that's been successful in the past, is that 30 minutes later, you send that shopper an email, hey, by the way, not pushy, just very nice. Can I answer any questions for you about your pending purchase? Did you have any technical challenges that prevented you from purchasing? Just to keep the dialogue going so they don't forget about you. 24 hours later, hey, by the way, did you forget something? These are pictures of the 3 awesome items that you have in cart. You can even do a kind of a play like, hey, availability is limited. Just want to let you know these are still in your cart. If you want them, you should probably act soon. And then, of course, in the last-ditch effort of desperation, you can always just send a discount code. But the point is, using strategies like this and using the sequence, at the very least, instead of losing these buyers completely, you can try and reclaim at least 12% of that revenue that you would have otherwise lost. So, onto the lifecycle email marketing strategies. VIPs, roll out the red carpet. For everyone here, VIPs are going to be different depending upon what you do. A VIP could be someone that spends a ton of money, could be someone that purchases a particular category, or maybe someone that came from a particular marketing channel that's particularly low cost for you, and you can define them as a VIP because you make more money with each purchase. So, in a case like that, if you define who a VIP is based off of your measurement plan from step 1, consider emailing your VIPs. Hey, here's an exclusive offer just for you. Stroking your ego. No one else is going to get this, but because you've spent X amount with us over the last 6 months, here's a special opportunity just for you. Or even segmenting it further by specifics like gender, age, location, things like that. And then, as we've touched on before, asking your VIPs for suggestions, because if they've been willing to buy a lot of money or buy a lot of things from you, they're probably willing to spend more money. So if you're a VIP, hey, I really respect your opinion. Thanks for stopping by. What else do you think we should carry? What else can we do to improve? It goes a long way. Whether or not you want to incentivize that with some kind of a gift card or do something else, it's definitely worth looking at. So strategy number 2, lifecycle email marketing: entertain, cross-sell, educate. Let's pretend that you're an outdoor retailer and you sell camping and recreational gear, one of my favorites, and you just sold a 2-person tent to a first-time shopper, and you have not created bundles yet, meaning you don't have any product pages that give people options A, B, and C. What can you do? Well, at this point, you can send them, again, educational content, because if you're an outdoor retailer, there are a million and one pieces of content that you can create, and this holds true to other industries, electronics, food-based things, you name it. So they've purchased. To keep them engaged in the conversation, consider sending them educational stuff, teaching them how to get the most out of the new purchase. And if you send them that content, don't be afraid to then follow up again, a reason to follow up again, and say, hey, by the way, we sent you some tips a few weeks ago. How did they work out for you? Did you try them? Did you not try them? Were we missing anything? What could we have added? Stuff like that. Of course, sharing your opinion. I think that's something all of us here have seen, getting emails like, hey, can you send us a product review? And most importantly, with these type of sites that have a lot of accessories and combinations, is you can introduce even more educational content while you're slowly nurturing the relationship to sell additional products. Because if I purchase a tent, you can send them an email and you can choose, hey, everyone that purchases a tent also purchases a mat or a sleeping pad, or you can, even better, send someone a survey. Hey, by the way, you purchased a tent recently. Which of these 6 things would you like to learn more about? Are you in the market for a sleeping pad? Are you in the market for a travel pillow, etc.? And let the shoppers tell you what they want you to sell them. So you're giving the shopper the choice, which of these things do you want to know more about? So that's a strategy there, that once you start to really dig in and learn your customers and your shoppers, you can have several sequences built on the back end that entertain and cross-sell at the same time, so that every time they want to purchase, they think of you, and they don't forget about you because you purchased something and they left and then they never hear from you again as a retailer. So you want to just continue the relationship. So let's turn things upside down. And no, unfortunately, I'm not going to stand on my head, but we've been focusing a lot on reclaiming revenue from existing shoppers. So to close this out, we've covered 4 strategies, but I wanted to touch on one other thing here, which was just one top of the funnel strategy that a lot of people are doing wrong, and I wanted to present another way that you can consider looking at it. And that way is paid ads. What a lot of retailers have been doing is saying, just raising their hand, hey, do you guys want to buy something? is they send people directly to their homepage, which is usually too many options, and it's very hard to measure a purchase conversion when you send someone to a homepage. Or B, they send people directly to the product page, where depending on where they're at in their buying cycle, you're forcing the shopper to make a yes or no decision. So if it's a product-related keyword, you could have just spent $25 to get someone to that product page, only to have them just leave, money down the drain. So I'm proposing an alternate solution here. You may have seen this chart before. AIDA, attention. Do I have your attention? Interested. Are you interested? Desire. Do you really want this? And then action. Are you ready to make a purchase decision? So a lot of retailers start down here. They send them directly to the action stage. Buy, yes or no. Credit card, yes or no. Instead, what we're going to look at here briefly is trying to get shoppers at the cognitive stage, meaning someone is just realizing, you know what, I think I may want to buy this product soon. And they just start thinking about it. They're not really sure yet. They don't know what the specs are. They don't know some of the uses for it, but they have an idea that they want to buy something. So what I'm going to show you here is ways to try and get them a lot earlier in the cycle so you can form that relationship. So by the time they move through interest and desire and they're ready to pull out the card, you're the logical choice for them to make a purchase. So there's a better question than buy or don't buy. What you want is a smaller ask. Meaning instead of buyers saying, do I want to whip out my credit card, you're asking buyers, do I feel comfortable giving my email address? Which is a much smaller ask than here's my credit card number and my CVV. So when the sale eventually happens, there's going to be a more meaningful relationship with your shoppers. And secondly, your store is very likely to benefit from an increased customer lifetime value as well, because you got them earlier in the stage and they think of you and they think about who educated them to the specific specs of the product that they were looking to purchase. So it's a long play. It definitely takes longer. It's not necessarily instant gratification. If you're, let's say, an e-commerce manager, boss comes up to you and says, hey guys, girls, we really need to get more sales this month. This isn't always the best play for it, because then you feel pressured to run ads directly to a product page. But if you have enough runway of a few months, you can catch people in that attention stage. It's going to have a lower cost of acquisition in the long run. So it's really the gift that keeps on giving. So let's look at a way that we can do that. 7 steps. So let's pretend that you've created your analytics measurement plan in step 1, and you know what some of your important shopper segments are. And with a bit more research, you've identified their motivations and their fears and their preferences. So now you're ready. Now you're ready to slowly educate and to solve them. And this is again a very brief rundown. But let's pretend that instead of going to a product page, you create a Facebook ad with very refined demographic and interest targeting. From there, you link that ad to a single-purpose landing page, not a home page, not a product page, but a single-purpose landing page. And the purpose of that landing page is to deliver an entertaining or educational content asset that your shopper is going to not only be excited, but they're going to want to exchange their email address for. So it's still a success in the sense that you've acquired a potential shopper from your paid ad. From there, let's say you created a great asset. In a case like this, to put it in context, again, if I purchase a stove, maybe if you send me a video, hey, this is the best way to work with an alcohol burner stove in windy conditions or something like that, you're educating me. Once I've gotten that video or that ebook or whatever it is, you then follow up with like an old school autoresponder series, meaning that you give someone the content that they wanted, that they exchanged their email address for, but then you follow up maybe 5 to 8 times with an email sequence that's already created using the language that you've already found out about your shoppers, meaning you know what their motivations are, you know what their fears are. Oh no, I could burn my tent down if I do this wrong, and their preferences. So after you've delivered them these 5 to 8 email follow-ups, then you measure the results. And then you keep optimizing it to get the results that you need to hit those target numbers that you defined in your measurement plan from step 1. And then from there, you move on to step 7. So you take what you've learned, and then you pick the next segment that you defined in your plan, and then you just keep going from there. So at the end of the day, if you work on something like this over the course of 6 months, a year, what you're going to find is that you're going to have several different funnels for delivering content and for educating that take a little bit longer, but you're going to be able to earn a lot more revenue from your existing shoppers. So to recap, everything that we talked about today are profit multipliers, if you will, ways to grow your store faster. It's like stacking bricks. We talked about creating your analytics measurement framework because segments equals action. Maximizing your internal site search. It doesn't cost you a dime to start going through some of those things that we had talked about to get more from your shoppers that are already there and catch them before they leave. So you don't obviously waste, maybe $25 on a click. Improving your merchandising with bundles. Again, identify product combinations that have worked very well in the past. And consider taking a handful of those and creating configurable products. And test it, see how that works. Run a split test to a product page that has just one item, and then a product page, your B variant, that would have a lot of different bundle options, and see which of those gets you a higher revenue for that order. And then lastly, what we had covered was creating lifecycle emails for both new shoppers, meaning catching them at the attention stage, and then also selling more to your existing shoppers because it's cheaper. And again, on the back end, that's asking your opinion about things and then educating them and sending them more emails about accessories and all that kind of stuff. So, now it's your turn. I mean, few retailers tend to really see the chessboard in this entire way. Usually in the real world, a lot of the answer is let's just throw more money at it, let's increase the ad budget and see what happens and see what sticks. But when you take a little bit more time and have a little bit more runway, so to speak, to lay out strategies like this, it's actually uncommon to see a lot of retailers doing it in this kind of a fashion. So we've covered a lot of actual next steps, and we kind of breezed through this, had a couple of technical difficulties that we worked through. But I have some resources here at ecommercewarriors.net/reclaim where it goes over this entire presentation that we just talked about. There's some downloadable resources that go through how to create an analytics measurement framework, why it's important, and all that kind of stuff. So hope it didn't blow anyone's brain up with too much information at once. But thanks for having me, and I'm definitely open to any questions.
Do you have an email service provider you recommend for yeah?
Yeah, there's two. You can have a lower end if you're looking at more informational base. You have your MailChimps, which are getting better, and then you have your Klaviyo's, which are very good. Klaviyo, which is integrating with a lot of shopping carts to look at all your past purchase history to be able to create these kind of segmented emails based on the actions that a shopper has taken. So those are really the two that I have.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do any of your customers use social login to help find data just from their Facebook behavior or Twitter behavior?
I haven't seen a whole lot of that.
It seemed like it used to be popular.
Yeah, let's get
And then it's
Like
kind of-
OpenID kind of stuff. That was
Yeah,
really
Yeah.
helpful.
like logging in with your Facebook.
Rather than having to create an account, they can just use their Facebook or Amazon
Right.
or Twitter, and then
It kind of went away.
No, I haven't seen that. And again, it isn't really, I guess, applicable to making more money from your shoppers, but I haven't really seen a whole lot of that. I think that whole OpenID movement, I think people are moving away from that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be willing to guess that everyone here has a list somewhere of all the passwords they use. I mean, it's just, or they use the same password, but you still have at least half a dozen. So no, I haven't seen
I
that.
think there's a fear factor involved too as it relates to identity. If I use my Facebook account to log into 75 different merchants, I'm not feeling real comfortable that the information is secure and it's handled well, even though I do technically know it's secure.
Right,
If I'm an average consumer, I probably don't have that perspective.
right. Agreed.
Plus, I feel I'm giving Facebook more knowledge about me, and that I'm trying to do that less and less every day.
Right, no, absolutely. A lot of people are like, take breaks from something like that. Cool, questions? Yes?
So we go back to the fourth, since you've got creating analytics framework, maximizing your internal site search, improving your merchandising bundles, and what was the last?
And the fourth one was lifecycle emails for both shoppers that have already purchased, ways to keep in communication with them after they've purchased, and then there was kind of a bonus fifth strategy, which was catching people in the attention stage when they just realize that they want to purchase something. So it's educating them a lot sooner,
Yeah.
as opposed to just getting into like, hey, you want to buy this, yes or no kind of thing.
Got it.
From your experience, what do you think the kind of sweet spot is for the length of one of these little bit longer term campaigns where you catch people in the interest cycle, to convert them to a sale?
Sure. I think some of that, Jeremy, is going to depend upon the price point of the product.
Okay.
Like if it's a lower end product, it's going to be potentially shorter than a higher end product. It's going to take a lot more nurturing to really have a deep understanding of what their concerns are. Like if I purchase this, what are all the things that can go wrong?
That makes sense.
Do you have search softwares that you like to recommend?
Foretell is one of them for searches and recommendations.
Okay.
I'm sure Wendy can speak a little bit more to that, but yes.
Okay.
No one else.
No one else. Yeah.
What we find is with search, the conversion is higher because people are looking for a product.
Yeah.
So our philosophy is two things. One, get into a product page as fast as possible, right?
Yes.
Pure clicks, and make it as visual as possible, right? We're selling to humans, and most people today understand the importance and have really great, lovely product images. So let's leverage that asset that you already have and make it a really nice experience. It is shocking how hard it is to find search on some sites.
Well, or search that isn't
Yeah.
so garbage that you're getting
Right.
25,000 results for.
My favorite search
word.
result is, when you type in a dress and it tells you how many in each category. What?
That doesn't help you. It doesn't
No,
help you.
it's great
It's
because
overwhelming.
someone programmatically knows we have all that data, but hello, user experience?
Right, and you made a great point too, Wendy, is that so many sites you can't even find search. I mean, it's
Right.
like, hello, like most people that use search purchase twice as much, but if you can't even find it, I mean, that's the
Right.
first step, is let's work on people just finding it first.
It's-
Always.
And it's hard to make these changes because there's this, it's like it's my baby, and
Yeah.
or really expensive designers told me this is how it was supposed to be, and that's also a barrier. But that test and learn, that's the best way, right? Your customers, right? What they're doing should drive it, not high-paid
Right,
designer.
absolutely. Because it's all about your customers really, and just figuring out what they want. So many times, like, sites are created in a bubble. Okay, we think this would be a great idea, without actually speaking to people to see what they want or the language they use. So it's great to really involve them, and I think you appreciate it, especially in a place like Portland with, such kind of a grassroots mentality of just people doing interesting things. And I think that, it's almost necessary now. Back in the day, there were sites like, uniquegiftsforyou.com where people carry thousands of SKUs of everything under the sun, and I just feel like those days are over because it's just impossible to compete when you have sites like Amazon. There's just no point to exist in that case, in my opinion. Any other questions? Yeah.
So I can look this up, but
Sure.
so to set up a Google Analytics account, is there a way to do you use like your own Google account and attach your domain to it? Can you do that through Shopify, which is where my shop is right now? So pretty straightforward.
Right. No, that's a great question. Yeah, you would use your existing Google account, and that would just be like another service, so to speak, that you would use from Google to set it up with your email address. And then once you have your Google Analytics property set up and validated through like a piece of code on your site with a platform like, let's say, Magento or Shopify, you would then be able to go in, depending upon how they have it set up. In some cases, it's as simple as just putting your unique ID, like your UA number, and then letting Shopify do the rest. And that's really good because back in the day, it was a lot more work. Like if you wanted to track purchase conversions, you'd have to go into the thank you page and enter a lot of custom code, and especially with things like enhanced e-commerce. But carts like Shopify will output all that stuff, so that actually it will capture all that actual purchase data and line items and things like that.
Data overload really fast.
Yeah.
Even more.
I've spent a lot of time in Google Analytics, but not with something that I've sort of started on my own. So it's gotta be very straightforward. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, a lot of the cards make it very simple. Just put in your UA number and just kind of go.
This is great. Thank you, Jeff, for your time.
Cool. Thanks so much.